Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a US political update where I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Donald Trump as ever. It's very difficult not to talk about Trump when you're talking about American politics because American politics is Trump, especially as he's trying to get more and more power through the unitary executive theory, this approach that you see the President Trump administration involved in, which is to concentrate power in the executive away from Congress and away from the judiciary. So therefore, he will be doing executive orders rather than relying on Congress to pass bills. Therefore, all the power is getting more and more concentrated in Trump. So when we talk about what the US is doing, we're talking about what Trump is doing, not what I'm not talking to you about different senators, because the Senate doesn't do anything and the House of Representatives doesn't really do anything. They're almost like impotently sitting on the sideline, just looking on in awe or in disgust at what Donald Trump does unilaterally. And so you might think I'm just completely one-track minded about Donald Trump, but I can't not talk about him because he is essentially dictatorially almost making decisions on behalf of the United States. And they are one of the most important countries in the world. And they appear to be dictating the fate of Ukraine, for example. And so to not talk about America is to not talk about Trump and is to ignore the most influential person, and not necessarily in a good way, in the world presently. So I end up speaking a lot about Trump. But what I want to do is not go on and on and on today. I'm just going to do 3 little points. I'm going to do one of these, the 3 things you want to know about, or 3 things, blah, 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 and a thumbnail with 3 things. No, I'm not going to do that. But essentially, there are 3 little elements that I want to talk to you about Donald Trump, which I think show a sense of disinformation and lies and dementia. It's all the D's, right? Disinformation and dementia. So we're going to look at that. Before we do so, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate that. It helps out the channel and also keeps you in the loop and knowledgeable about what's going on around the world, in this case, with regard to the United States. Okay, let's get into it. So we are going to go first to actually Pennsylvania. And he gave a speech in Pennsylvania, a rally. It was an economic rally at a casino. Famously, he has bankrupted casinos previously. I don't know how you run a casino and bankrupt it, but anyway, there you go. It's virtually free money, isn't it? He spoke on affordability at the rally. And we're going to talk. My point about the rally is more about who was there at the rally, but we're going to start as the intro here into his crazy talk about affordability and slagging off this idea of affordability as a concept.
A lot of people misinterpret it. They say, oh, he doesn't realize prices are high. Prices are coming down very substantially, but they have a new word. They always have a hoax. The new word is affordability. So they look at the camera.
Couple of things to note already. One, prices aren't coming down. Prices are going up. He's lying. So straight away he's lying. But the voice he uses to talk about affordability is to mock those actually struggling with affordability in the United States. This is incredibly insensitive. Absolutely unreal. He said a number of things. He said the economy in the Dasha Burns interview on the Politico channel the other day. He said that he gives the rating, the Trump economy, a rating of A+++++. As many people have said, that needs to be replayed on adverts going forward. The Democrats need to clip that and play on every single advert. When people are struggling economically over the next year and you've got elections coming up, they need to be telling the American public that Donald Trump thinks the economy is A++++++. And here he's taking the mickey out of the concept of affordability, which is incredibly insensitive at a time when people are struggling to pay bills, where it is very clear from the data that things are getting more expensive. But of course, you might not know the data because the American government have refused, or Trump has refused, to publish inflation data, GDP data, jobs data. The jobs data apparently is pretty terrible. There are different claims to the amount of jobs that are being lost on a monthly basis. You've got some private data which is not looking good, but the public data is not forthcoming. He's stopped publishing incredibly important pieces of information, which disguises what is going on in the United States economically speaking. And then he stands up to this crowd in Pennsylvania and mocks affordability.
Affordability. So they look at the camera and they say, this election is all about affordability. Now, they never talk about it. They never talk. Thank you very much. They say I'm not allowed to run. I don't know what the hell that's all about, but that's okay. He said 4 more years. You've seen the new hat. We have 4 more years. 2020. We have all sorts of. Well, you know what? We have 3 years and 2 months to go. And you know what that is in Trump time? 3 years and 2 months is called eternity. We have a long time. We have a long time. But under Biden, real wages plummeted by $3,000 a year. Under Trump, the typical factory worker has already seen their wages increase by more than $1,300, and that's in just a few months. And for construction workers, it's $1,800 up versus $3,500 down. And I think their number is wrong. It's much lower than that.
So there you go. Coming out with a load of stats that probably need fact checking. Okay, so he's taking a mickey out of affordability as a concept, and he talks about it being a hoax in other places. And then actually in this talk, he says, well, okay, I can't say it's a hoax because, you know, obviously that's a little bit controversial. Let's move on to what he says about this rally in Pennsylvania.
Good to see you, Mr. President. I follow up on the event last night in Pennsylvania. Huge crowd turned out there. Big crowd. It seemed like
huge crowd. That's a guy asking, actually. So almost certainly one of his fawning acolytes there, somebody from OAN or Newsmax. Oh, huge crowds there, and he agrees. So he agrees that huge crowds.
Crowd turned out there. Big crowd. It seemed like rally Trump was in prime condition last night. You enjoyed it. Can you just give me your thoughts on that? Then I do have a question on the gold coin.
Last night was amazing in Pennsylvania. We had a tremendous crowd. It was like freezing. And
so it's a big crowd, tremendous crowd.
The thousands of people on the sidewalk trying to get in.
Thousands on the sidewalks and streets trying to get in.
It was an amazing evening, actually, and I think people really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. You could tell that.
I can tell that you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I really. Well, you know, it's easy to enjoy when you do a good job, and you know when you can talk about things in a very positive way. It's hard not to say it. We have.
It's easy to do a good job. It's easy to enjoy it when you do a good job. In other words, I enjoyed it because I'm so good at it. Okay, big crowds, tremendous crowds, thousands of people queuing up outside. Now, I can't talk to the claim of thousands of people queuing up outside, but big crowds and tremendous crowds. This is where we get on to further disinformation. So not only did he talk about talk in terms of lies and disinformation, I think the entire rally speech was just a rambling mess, in my opinion, of all sorts of disinformation. But then this is the crowd that he's just talked about. I don't want a copyright infringement there. But anyway, that's the crowd in front of him. And when you see these sorts of videos where he's talking in front of a podium, you're never quite sure how many people he's talking to, actually. When they're all cheering, and there's a number behind him, there's probably 100 or so behind him. When they're all cheering and you're near a microphone, it probably sounds like there are an awful lot more people than you think. But I would have thought that would be at some kind of stadium. And if I'm not told on the news exactly how many people are there and how big the room was, I would assume that was one of these big rallies like you would see on the campaign trail. But it turns out it was a small room in a casino where there was just a handful of people. Some people saying around 200 people. I'd actually say there's probably a few more than that. But this wasn't the rally that he was indicating he was speaking in front of. So that's I think a considerable bit of information. So in other words, whenever you hear him talking about anything and he talks in these terms.
Good to see you, Mr. President. I follow up on It seemed like rally Trump was in prime condition last night. You enjoyed it. Just give me your thoughts on that. Then I do have a question on the gold card.
Last night was amazing in Pennsylvania. We had a tremendous crowd. It was like freezing. And the people, the thousands of people on the sidewalk.
So when he talks in these terms, you just 100% of the time now, you just got to be questioning whether even these kind of little throwaway comments are true at all. Like, is anything this man says true at all? He appears to just lie through his teeth. In fact, there was analysis I was listening to yesterday on Lincoln Square, where the guy being interviewed said he lies as easily as he breathes. Essentially, everything he says at the moment is just a lie. And we're going to go on to another example where I'm not sure this is a lie. This is just abject ignorance, right? So, but there is lie and disinformation in there. By point of fact, he's championing how amazing he's been at doing something without understanding what the thing he did was. And so it's very difficult to take responsibility for championing that. Okay, if I can get my words out. You'll see what I mean when you listen to this.
So we're into 6G now.
So and just in case you can't hear, you don't know what he's talking about. Sorry, the context is 5G. 5G connectivity with phones and whatnot. And moving on to 6G, he says. So we're on to 6G now.
So we're into 6G now. I just finished 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that done. And now they're up to 6.
I was a leader on 5G getting this done. So if you are a president that is claiming I was a leader on 5G getting that done, then you would assume that the president would have some idea of what getting that done was. Because it turns out that getting that done wasn't what he thinks it was.
But again, what does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect it is? I like the cameras the old days. So they just had a nice feature. Now they cover every little. Let's see, Michael, you're in good shape. You're not gonna. But I tell you, it's it's the 6 is coming, huh? It's coming.
So he said, I thank you. It was because of me that 5G got done. And by the way, I can't believe we're going on 6G. I mean, 5G was amazing for, look at the resolution on your camera. I mean, it's just incredible. You can see your skin really clearly. No, that is the resolution on a mobile phone on your screen. That is the quality of your screen and maybe the processing on your phone. But it is not 5G connectivity. You absolutely don't know what you're talking about. It's rather like listening to talk about crypto and how he's a crypto guy. He's not. He's a guy that allows someone to come in and completely deregulate the crypto domain. But yeah, Trump tries to take credit for 5G technology, but thinks it's a camera's megapixels. He's such an effing moron. He is a moron. But this is a mixture of disinformation and outright ignorance. And I think if you understand that almost everything Trump says is a mixture of disinformation and ignorance, then you understand Trump pretty well. Like I've talked to you before about how he talks in vaguenesses all the time. There's no granular information about anything he talks about. And I think there is nothing as obvious as that, as this clip. Just quite incredible. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about just briefly concerns his cognitive abilities, his acuity, if you like. And Sarah Longwell, who speaks to a lot of focus groups and speaks to a lot of Republican voters, has an interesting opinion on this and how Trump keeps doubling down on something he probably shouldn't double down on.
I wouldn't even say seeming. Trump telling the country that he keeps taking a cognitive screen and acing it. How's that playing?
Well, look, I think I'm actually seeing sort of a funhouse mirror with Trump and Democratic voters, like I was seeing with Joe Biden and Republican voters, right? Like Democratic voters think he is insane and has dementia and are very sort of tracking his cognitive decline, like the fact that he's falling asleep during meetings. So Democrats are on this the same way Republicans were on it with Trump. But what's funny about Trump this time around, Trump often has a really good kind of lizard brain for how to sort of move on from conversations he doesn't like, to change the subject. Sometimes, though, he gets caught in these loops, and he's doing this more and more, where he doubles down or raises the salience of an issue that he would be better off just changing the subject away from. And so him sort of digging in on, no, I'm taking cognitive tests, is just bringing more attention to the fact that people are talking about his declining health, his declining mental acuity. And I think that it's clearly something that is bothering him because he seemed to, he can't stop talking about it. And so all it's doing is having a Streisand effect with voters, where they are more and more now engaged in the idea of maybe things are really falling apart for him. But of course, Republicans are still defending him on this. And they also do the what about thing. Well, what about Biden? And I think overall, though, especially with swing voters, they'll just tell you, we've got a gerontocracy in this country. Our leaders are too old, and we need a new generation of leadership.
Yeah, it's funny.
Okay, fascinating. So his cognitive competence is being called into question, and rather than just ignoring that or dealing with it in a very succinct sort of way, he keeps doubling down on it, keeps talking about himself, and then that has what's called the Streisand effect, which is then brings it into people's, it increases the salience of this, as she said. So people are much more aware of his cognitive decline, and it's counterproductive the way that he deals with it. And there's an absolutely incredible example of this massive torrent on Truth Social that he just vomited. And I'm going to read some of it here. It is quite incredible. And it essentially admits he is in cognitive decline. It admits that he has something very, very wrong with him. So he says, in addition to all of that, I go out of my way to do a long, thorough, and very boring medical examinations at the great Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, seen and supervised by top doctors, all of whom have given me perfect marks. Some have even said that they have never seen such strong results. I do these tests because I owe it to our country. In addition to the medical, I have done something that no other president has done on 3 separate occasions, the last one being recently by taking what is known as cognitive examination. God, never heard of that. Something which few people would be able to do very well, including those working at the New York Times. And I aced all 3 of them in front of large numbers of doctors and experts, most of whom I do not know. And of course, we know that the tests he did weren't these amazing tests. They're really simple cognitive tests, like naming 5 animals in the right order and indicating what those animals were, or something like that. It's just really very simplistic. This has been talked about an awful lot. But he's saying that he's done 3 of them and in front of large numbers of doctors. Right. And he's also had an MRI. He keeps falling asleep. He's got bruises on his hands. He's got swollen ankles. There's every chance that he's on dementia drugs that should make him tired, like Leqembi or whatever the drug is that you would take probably on your hand intravenously and will make you tired and will give you swellings and whatever else. But anyway, so here he is, telling everyone that he has got essentially health problems because you have one kind of cognitive test. If someone's worried about your cognitive abilities, you have it, you ace it, you're fine, don't need to do that again. If you're having 3, that means you've got dementia. My dad has dementia, and we have made him take a number of cognitive tests. Made him take, well, we didn't, the experts made him take a second one recently just to see where he was compared to his last one and whether there's any degradation. You and I, we've not had cognitive tests. I've had MRIs. I've had 6 or 7 MRIs because I've got multiple sclerosis and prostate cancer, right? That's why I have MRIs. He's had MRIs and he doesn't even know what part of the body they've looked at. But he said he's aced it. You only get given an MRI. You are only told to take an MRI if there's something wrong with you. You're only told to take 3 cognitive tests if there's something wrong with you. So it continues here. I aced all 3 of them in front of large numbers of doctors and experts, most of whom I do not know. I've been told that few people have been able to ace this examination. And in fact, most people do very poorly, which is why many other presidents have decided not to take it at all. No, you take it because you got dementia, and they do poorly because they got dementia. So maybe you're in the early stages of dementia where it's actually not as bad as someone who's got, despite all of this, the time and work involved, the New York Times and some others like to pretend that I'm slowing up and maybe not as sharp as I once was. or I'm in poor physical health, knowing that it is not true, and knowing that I work very hard, probably harder than I have ever worked before. I will know when I am slowing up, but it's not now. After all the work I've done with medical exams, cognitive exams, and everything else, I actually believe it's seditious, perhaps even treasonous for the New York Times and others to consistently do fake reports in order to libel and demean the President of the United States. They are true enemies of the people, and we should do something about it. So now he's threatening the press for reporting on this. They've inaccurately reported on all of my election results, and in fact, we are forced to apologize. They were forced to apologize on much of what they wrote. And best thing that could happen to this country would be if the New York Times would cease publication, because they are a horrible, biased, and untruthful source of information. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Methinks the lady does protest too much. So Donald Trump is saying, there's nothing wrong with me, but I've had 3 cognitive tests in front of a whole group of unknown doctors, and I've had an MRI, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with me. I've aced everything. And the cognitive tests were really, really difficult, even though we know that they weren't. So he's just lying. Everything he says is just a lie. It's disinformation. Is skewing the truth, distorting the truth at the very minimum, if not just outright lies. And I would say that disinformation and dementia probably sum up Trump's second tenure at the moment. And he's doubling down and I think providing us the evidence of that very, very clearly. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Speak soon.